full cut up chicken with the bone, covered in water,
We're gonna add some onion and celery.
on low.
You want to pull it in there?
No, I have the camera.
This is just to give it flavor, that's it. And garlic powder. And a little bit of salt, because you're gonna use this that has salt, this has salt. Add some salt.
These for the ingredients.
You know what?
Wait, not.
It's just to flavor.
It doesn't matter. Salt,
Yes.
tomato sauce, and Ben's rice. Here comes onion.
The more you add, more flavor you have. That's all I know. Just big chunk, because you're not going to use it. You're just going to strain it afterwards to get it out. So the bigger, the easier to remove. And that's it. We cook the chicken.
No lid.
Yeah.
For how long?
It's until it's cooked, and I don't know how long it is slow. I honestly do not know. So you don't want to overcook it, because then it gets like rubbery. So it's all underwater. I just have to make sure. Okay. I had to add more salt and more flavor, more garlic and onions to it yesterday because I didn't add enough. So basically it's try the chicken to see if it has any flavor as you're going along. Now I'm going to strain it and we're going to shred the chicken. So we're going to just separate it here for now. And separate the broth. We're just going to use the meat, and you can toss the skin out. Of course, you have to wait till it cools off. The broth is what we're going to use instead of water to cook the rice. We're just going to flavor it some more. Basically, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to trash pan. Take the skin and the bones out. And just we'll shred it all. This is going to take a little bit. So. When I cook the chicken, I use celery, onion, and salt and garlic to give it flavor. You can use the fresh one or you can use powder. And that was just for the flavor for the chicken. And I did use some salt, but don't use too much because when we do the broth to the rice, this already has salt, so you're gonna have to keep it down. Also, the bouillon has salt as well. Okay, I'll use mixed vegetables in the rice. Make sure it's thawed out, because if not, it adds more water to the rice, and then you're gonna have mushy rice. When I have the broth, this is the broth to the chicken. This is what I'm gonna use instead of water to cook the rice. Then I'm gonna add salsa inglesa, which, like I said, has sodium, lots of salt. The Liperines sauce, some tomato sauce. You don't have to use it all, it's more for color. And I use more of this to give it more flavor of chicken. And of course, salt to taste. So you gotta be tasting, make sure it's not too salty. And I definitely always add garlic. You can add either one, fresh or powder. And then we do use this particular rice, which is the parboiled rice. And And this one won't be sticky. If you use regular rice, it's gonna be all mushy and sticky. It might even stick to the pan. So this is definitely a lot better. And I think that's it for that. Now I'm gonna start chopping chopping onions and the red pepper. You can use green or red or both if you want to the rice. I only have red right now. So I'm gonna chop this to stir fry before I add the rice and to give it more flavor. And then we'll get back to you. Okay, we're gonna start with the broth. We prep everything to make sure we're ready when we start the rice. So I've got the onions, the red pepper, which I used about an onion and one red pepper, and we'll stir fry that in a moment. We'll add some oil, just enough to cover the pan. And then we need to prep this, the broth that's gonna cook the rice with all these ingredients. I am using 3 cups of rice, and then I've got my chicken all shredded, and then I've got my vegetables thawed out. I rinsed them, and then this will be the last thing that goes in so that when you stir in the chicken, then after you're stirring the vegetables, they won't be all mushy. Okay, so we're gonna start with the broth. I honestly do not have measurements. All I do is by taste. Bianca, Anna, that's all you have to do is try to taste it as you go along once you add all the ingredients. The stronger the taste is, the more flavor will give the rice. And you gotta make sure you hit the broth goes all the way to the bottom so all the rice is coated with it, especially for the flavor. So it has to be pretty strong. I start with the bouillon, the chicken. I add about 2 tablespoons, 2 big scoops. What you don't use, you can just set aside, so you don't have to worry about it. And if it's too strong by any chance, just add a little bit of water. Then I'm gonna use the whole can. And I have some broth aside. I'm just gonna rinse the can out. Okay, so when it comes to salsa inglesa, same thing. I don't know how much I put in. Let me kind of get an idea. Okay, here's a third. Honestly, I think I usually use more than this. Okay, so let's add, yes, the Worcestershire sauce, Leaperines, I can never pronounce it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, about 10 shakes. What do you call it? I don't know what you call it. Okay, definitely I add garlic. I use powder, a lot easier for this. Same thing, there's no really a measurement. Basically this sauce has all the flavors and I just add more to it. I like it to be a real strong taste. That way the rice is flavorful. And then I saw it in San Antonio. It still tastes kind of watery. Add more garlic. Do you know where they sell that in San Antonio? In San Antonio?
What? Salsa inglesa?
Yeah. There's a Colombian store on San Pedro, near the Redken store.
Probably about another third cup.
Yeah, probably another third. Add some more. And I'll add more chicken flavor. You never have enough, so you won't go wrong. That was another tablespoon. So I've added about 3 tablespoons of the bouillon, a whole bit, I don't know, a 1/4 cup of garlic powder, I think. And you should be good to go. So everything's prepped to just start the rice, and then it's a pretty quick process once you cook the chicken and have it shredded. That's what I think takes the longest. Everything else is pretty easy. Any questions, Andrea? Sorry guys, I don't really have a recipe. This is the best way we can do it so that you guys, I can answer your questions. Once you see the video, let me know if you have questions and I'll be able to help.
Start your own YouTube channel.
Okay, it's pretty strong flavored.
So you pretty much doubled everything.
Yeah. You see it has a kick to it, but the kick is coming from here. Okay, so I didn't add salt. I didn't add any salt because the broth already had salt. And like I said, all these have salt. I sometimes buy the one that's light on salt here, the Knorr's, but that's why I didn't add any salt. Okay, so we're gonna get started. We're gonna fry the onions and the green pepper. And I'm gonna coat the pot with just enough, I use olive oil. Try to stay healthy a little bit. Just enough to coat the bottom of the pot. Like I said, I'm using 3 cups of rice. This rice, you don't have to fry it ahead of time. You know, like we stir fry the rice before when we make the white rice. So what?
Or wash it.
Yeah, or you don't have to wash it either. If you wash it, it's gonna get sticky. It's gonna stick together. So don't even wash it. And the onion with the oil. I added half a cup more of rice. Okay, I think I need more.
Why do you think you need more?
Because it's a big pot and I have a lot of chicken. So just mix it in. I don't have to fry the rice. Just mix it. And then we'll just start putting everything in. Now I'm going to add the chicken. I added, you can use any type of chicken. I try to use the whole cut of chicken because it has dark meat, white meat, and the bone gives it flavor. But if you're in a quick bind, just use chicken breast. Make sure you use a pot that it doesn't stick. That's an issue that happens sometimes. You need a good quality pot. Okay, I'm gonna start pouring some of the broth. And then I'll add the veggies. And I'm gonna use a fork, that way everything stirs in a lot better, mixes in. Okay, I'm gonna put it to boil, and then I'll lower it. Here's a whole bag of veggies, they're thawed out. I like to get the veggies, and I don't like the lima beans, so I avoid getting the ones with the lima beans. You could add olives to it, you could add capers to it. What else? Like I said, you just tweak it to whatever you might want to add to it. Okay, so once I pour all the broth, we'll taste it again to make sure that it still has a strong flavor. If it's weak, it won't be so tasteful or tasty. And if you're in doubt how much broth to put in, I usually just cover it up. But if you need more, it's better to be safe to add more later. If your rice is hard, you need more water. It needs more moisture. So it's better, instead of having mushy rice, to have dry rice, and then you just add a little bit more broth to give it, to cook it. And we are going to try it. passed inspection.
It's about medium heat.
Well, I'm gonna try to let it boil a little bit, but in a lower temperature, not at the highest, because I don't want it to get stuck at the bottom. I still have broth left. I'll just keep it on the side in case I see that I need more, or I see the rice is, it's too hard, then I'll add more. So it continues to cook. And like I said, I use the fork and I put the veggies last so they don't get all mushed up from the stirring. So as soon as I see it kind of boil, then I'll just cover it up and we are done. It's an easy process. The only thing is cooking the chicken and shredding it. That's the work. But you can do that the night before like we did. Do it the night before and then just prep it, and then everything will be ready for the next day. And it's about to boil here. And in case this is weak, once you taste it, add more flavors directly in here. If you have to add more of the salsa inglesa or any of the garlic powder, just add it here, not to the broth. That way you have a tasty rice. Okay, it's come to a boil, so I'm just gonna lower it and just check it throughout. I put it the lowest. That way, and I honestly don't know how long it cooks for. I put it on a 2. And like I said, as it goes along, I'll be checking it and stirring it with a fork so you don't ruin the veggies. And I'll just low cook, and then I add the broth just in case I need to add more as I cook. So we're all set for now. Go ahead and check it. Everything looks good. I'm gonna stir it. So far, so good. I don't know if I need more broth to it yet. Until it cooks better. I just want to make sure that the flavor gets to the bottom. It's on very low. Rice. There we go. And it's done.